Hello, my name is Miimu Airaksinen and I'm from Metropolia and I'm speaking about smart cities and biodiversity. It's really pleased to be here. As we all know, cities are really important. Most of us are living in the cities, and also a major part of the GDP is created in cities, roughly 84% in Europe. But most importantly, 90% of the innovations are originated from the actions what we are doing in cities. But at the same time, 70% of the impacts to nature are originated from the actions we are doing in cities. So this is why cities, and especially smart cities, are important, because in the smart cities we can deliver the benefits of urban living with minimizing the impacts to the nature. We all know that cities can have the ability to share the benefits, inputs, and for example, infrastructure. So this is of course very good. And at the same time also cities have the ability to share the kind of like the pool of workers and relevant skills. And this is what we are actually calling of the knowledge spillover, that different disciplines can share their expertise. And as we can see from this picture, so the share of the jobs in central city areas are related to knowledge-intensive businesses and services. So there is a direct link to this as well. According to research also, the productivity is higher in cities. There is a clear evidence on that. And of course, I mean, when the cities are growing too big, so then there might be also those negative impacts, for example, overcrowding, congestions, and in some cases also pollutions. But mainly kind of like the productivity and innovations are strongly linked to cities. In addition to that, when we think about the share of the urban population and the GDP per capita, so this is actually the correlation is nearly linear and this has been kind of like many years already. So the higher the urbanization rate, so the higher is also the GDP per capita. Then there is a really interesting link about this is just a recently published data from the confidence parameters about the investors' confidence. And this is related to Finland, and when the foreign companies are thinking about, well, I mean, shall they locate their businesses or shall they invest to Finland? So what they think is important. Well, of course, they do think that it's important that we have the stability of the society, infrastructure is well in place, and we have educated workforce here. But it's also really important to see that the quality of the life is also mentioned. One of the important aspects when they are considering where they should locate and invest their businesses. And then what is then the quality? So when we ask for people that, well, what is actually what you are appreciating in your living area? Which type of like urban environments would you like to live? So they want to have enough privacy. Green and blue areas are mentioned second most important there. They do of course need enough services. They want to have not too long distance to work, and also that of course a home which they can afford, and some open space. But it's striking that actually the green and blue spaces are seen so important in the urban areas where they want to spend their time and live. And this can be seen also in the apartment prices. According to research, so depending a bit on the context where we are and distance to the urban green areas, for example parks, so apartment price can increase up to 14% due to the green parks available closely. And even when we are coming to upper range premiums, so they can be up to 20%. So this is really shows really that people are willing to pay on the green areas. So showing that it's really good to invest on green areas in the cities. Well, and then when we think about that, well, we are constructing buildings and renovating buildings in cities. So typically 70 to 90% of the biodiversity impacts are occurring off-site. So meaning in the material production or in the energy generations, what we are needed, in the mining, in the forestry. So, and only 10 to 30% of the impacts to nature are on-site, so meaning at the exact location where the buildings are built. And therefore, actually, the roughly 80% in average of the biodiversity impacts arise before the construction is in use. So meaning basically during the material manufacturing and of course during the construction phase. And this is extremely important when you think about how we do this in a sustainable way in the future. And the kind of like the largest factors, what is the construction doing is the biodiversity losses, it's the climate change and water consumption. So those are the two most important factors in biodiversity losses. And this kind of like gives us really highlights the importance that we need to use the materials much more smart way than what we are used to do. This is why circular economy is becoming and is already so important in cities and especially in smart cities. Because we need to increase the reuse of buildings, reuse of components and reuse of the materials. Currently our circulation rate globally is only 11%. If we could double that decrease, so that could reduce our global emissions by 40% and decrease the use of the virgin materials resources by 30%. So really high impacts on that. And we need really badly those technologies who are capable to process those demolition and industrial waste that we can produce from the waste high quality recycled materials. One good example is in the picture about the EcoOp Technologies who is doing those grinding technologies. For example, in this picture we can see old mineral wool, which is actually rather hard to manufacture in a way that we can recycle it and upcycle the material to new products. And with this grinding technologies, so we can pulverize the mineral wool in a way that we can use it, for example, as one material for concrete production, and by that using the geopolymers in concrete production, so we can reduce the CO2 emissions by 85%. So kind of like the possibilities, the gains are really big ones. And the technologies do exist, but we really need to scale and speed up the acceleration of using these technologies. Also, where we need to use much more flexibility and circulation in is also the spaces what we have in cities. This picture shows a picture a few years ago, and it's actually the trend is even all the time getting worse, that the availability of empty spaces, so the vacancy rate of office spaces in Helsinki Metropolia is increasing all the time. And this is kind of like, it's of course no use to have empty spaces, so we need to circulate the spaces, be flexible how we are using office spaces, how we are developing the spaces in a way that they can be used for multiple purposes. Then when we go to the climate change and cities and adaptation, so we know that the reported economic losses because of climate change is increasing, and the kind of like the most dominant economic losses are due to storm, so really heavy winds, extreme weather conditions, and then flooding. So the blue barriers there. And it's good to know that also that especially when the extreme weather conditions are occurring, so the insurance is not covering those costs. So it's really what we need to think about when we are investing in buildings. So we need to think about the adaptation on climate change. We also know that nature-based solutions can reduce, for example, heat island effect. Flooding also can be a part of the solutions. And especially those type of nature-based solutions which have rich biodiversity are much more durable compared to those ones which has only kind of single species and genetically not different species. But if we do have genetically different species, so they actually have better resiliency to weather conditions, for example, dry summer period, hot summer period, or extreme cold winters. So they are surviving much better if the biodiversity is rich. And this is, of course, good for the maintenance as well. So maintenance cost is lower. And the good news is also that the biodiversity-rich areas, the investment cost is not at all high, so it's the same investment cost. So really, really win-win situation. Then if we think about the climate risks and smart cities, especially from the perspective of the biodiversity, so typically the risks are not emerging kind of by only one single risk, but there are many risk components together. For instance, when we have these severe flooding, what we have had in recent times, so that might also affect, or quite often actually affects on the disruptions of water quality, worsen water quality. And if that would be coupled with the disinformation, so that may erode the public trust and amplify the social impacts. So this is why the effective mitigation effects, so they cannot solely rely on technical solutions. Of course, technology is super important, but we need to take into account the human factor. And this highlights really the importance of the smart city approach, that we have in balance the social and the environmental and the economic, all those factors are in balance. Then when we think about the urban green and well-being, so there is a lot of scientific evidence that people feel happier, they feel more comfortable when they have the nature present in their living areas. There are recent study from Barcelona, from Spain, that the urban green areas can reduce the self-reported mental stress, visits to doctors due to mental health issues, antidepressant use, and those kind of things. And it was estimated that yearly direct economic cost for this would be approximately 45 million euros annually. So we can see the scale that there are kind of huge potential in saving from the cost perspectives, but of course from the social point of view, really huge beneficial kind of for the individual well-being and citizens' comfort. And then when we think about the biodiversity and children, of course children are really important for us. They are the kind of the coming generation and our future. So especially the immune functions in children, it's developing all the time. And that is why it is extremely important that the children are living in a biodiversity-rich environment. And of course, when they have kind of playgrounds where the biodiversity is rich, so this is also good for their activity. They are more active physically, they play more, and usually the active kind of physical activities engage to mental well-being as well. So the mental well-being is also good. So also kind of when we are designing apartments, the close by parks and apartments also where they have the parks in the apartment, or schoolyards and kindergartens. So we really need to take into account the biodiversity on those areas as well. And lastly, I think Winston Churchill has put it really nicely, that we are first shaping our buildings and our cities, and thereafter they are shaping us. So this is why we really need to think about the urban green and biodiversity in our smart cities. Thank you.